Hey everybody, what's up? Happy Tuesday. It is a great day to have a great day. We are coming off of a super eventful week in New York City Marathon. The Cowboys lost, but most importantly, a lot of cross-country conference championships went down. What's up everybody? Welcome to the FloTrack's Cross Country College Ranking Show. My name is Nia Gibson. I am here with Bryan Deibel and our remote HOKA analyst, Krissy Gear. What's up everybody? How are we doing?
I'm great.
I'm
Trying to
fantastic.
decide which of my mustaches I'm gonna rock for Stashies at Nashies.
Oh, I'm excited to see which
Love
one you
it.
pull out. So last time it was the orange one. I think I have the over on like purple. What about you?
I don't know. I've already seen them, so I can't say. I don't want to give it away.
I
It'd
don't know.
be
One
sweet
of
to
them
get a
was
blue one
one
in
of them
there or
was
something.
I had to
malfunctioning.
switch
That's
it
why
up.
I'm
The other
guessing
one's
now.
tape wasn't coming off. Here we go.
All
All right, I'm
love
ready
it.
to talk business.
There it is. There we go.
All right, you always have something up your back pocket. But before we get into any conference talk, I think we definitely have to mention between last show and this show, there was some stuff that went down. Several members of the Iowa State men's cross country team has been suspended for violating team rules. The specific violations and the names of the athletes have not been disclosed. The team's director of track and field and cross country confirmed the suspensions, which will impact the team for the remainder of the season. So obviously, guys, still very much so a developing story, and we will make sure that we keep you updated as we get more details to come. But moving along there, let's talk about conference. And I think we got to start with Big 12s. We started off the last show with the Jane Train. I think we got to start off with this one. Jane Hendegren completely dominates Big 12s. Freshman Jane continued her dominant start to the collegiate season, winning Big 12s with a record time of 18:29.6 in just her second collegiate race. She's already proving to be in a class of her own. West Virginia's Joy Knockett finished second with 19:14.3, followed closely by BYU's Riley Chamberlain with 19:15.2. With a trajectory like this, the question on everyone's mind is what can we expect from the freshman phenom at Nationals? Krissy, I want to start with you.
Oh man, expect great things. It was just like the only I feel like there's no words for that performance. Like besides transcendent. Like I feel like it exceeded so many of our expectations and like what we thought was possible. It was so impressive to see her go for it, and then just no one could make that gap up. It just kept opening and opening and opening. Um, so I don't know. I feel like when she opened at pre-nats, it looked like she'd kind of stayed with the pack and didn't take off till about halfway, which I would assume. I don't know, but I would assume that was Coach Taylor's advice. And Jane seems to be someone who loves to push herself and see what she can get out of herself. And so I feel like Coach Taylor probably, kind of let her do that at Big 12s because it's a little riskier or a little less risky. It's a little less risky than doing the postseason at regionals and nationals. So I feel like we've gotten to see her do both, start with the pack and also just go do her own thing. And she's shown that, she can do both like very handily. So I feel like it'll be between Jane and Coach Taylor to decide at nationals. What are they gonna do? Are they gonna go with option one, which is run the pack and then drop the hammer when it's time, or are they gonna go option two and just go from the gun? Or knowing Jane, she probably has a million different options and tools in her back pocket. So I feel like it makes NCAA's and what we'll see there a lot more exciting.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Jane did not skip a beat. Like, let's be honest. She has just moved it right from being a phenomenal record breaker, course record breaker, 5K record breaking phenomenal high schooler into record breaking phenomenal freshman in the collegiate scene. I believe it was a Big 12. The Rimrock course record is not the course record because it's been changed a little bit, the course, but it was like a Big 12 conference record over 6K. I mean, 18:29. It's crazy, unbelievable. And I think one thing that they were mentioning on the stream that I think you kind of alluded to also, Krissy, is just like the mentality of how she can run. Is like, does she run with the pack for a little bit? Does she kind of go out and take after it? And she took it out. And one thing they were saying on the stream, which I agree with, is like it's that Parker Valby a little bit of a mindset of just like, I can do this. I'm going to go after it and just take it from the gun. Like, why leave it up to chance? I can do this. I got this. For me, like with Jane, it really opens up the question of like, is she going to challenge somebody like Doris or like some of these like older athletes that we've seen in the NCAA now for years? And obviously Doris being the defending national champion, I think it sets up for a phenomenal showdown come later this month, since now we're in November.
Yeah, I think one thing about Jane is she always runs her own race. Since high school, it's always been her against the clock, and she doesn't. To your both your points, she doesn't leave it up to chance. But it is going to be a great showdown between her and Doris because you think about it. A lot of the time, what ends up happening in some of these races is talent almost becomes secondary. What experience do you bring into this field, and how do you know how to pivot and adjust if something were to go wrong, or if maybe the race is different from what you imagine, what you envision. So with all that being said, it's going to be something special because Jane is special. She's not your typical freshman that's coming in kind of wide-eyed and just the lights are too bright. The lights are clearly not bright at all. So it's going to be something to realm on. I think it's going to be a special national championships. Moving along. Oh, did you have something to say?
Can I just touch real quick
Yes, go
on
ahead.
just like since we're kind of in that Big 12 thing and talking about domination? Brian Musau, that was his third Big 12 conference championship in a row individually. So really awesome. And then I know we're talking about it later, but Oklahoma State obviously taking a big win over Iowa State was huge on the men's side. But the big thing I want to draw to individually is Brian Musau and just the fact that it was his third conference title. Pretty impressive there. Talking about dominance. Sorry.
No. That's a good point. And I guess if we're gonna like go on a tangent real quick, we talk about dominance, talk about Brian. We got to talk about Oklahoma State as a whole. They made up like half of the top 10, and
Yeah.
I think, hint, spoiler alert, it's gonna definitely make a little bit of difference in the rankings coming up. But all right. Yo, go Ducks. Oregon women. The flock was flying high this weekend, guys. Oregon's women's dominated Big Ten championships, placing 6 runners in the top 10, led by Diana Cheretich. The Ducks swept the top 3 spots and ultimately took home the women's title. Guys, what are we seeing here in terms of this dominance? Go ahead, Krissy.
I feel like there's some question marks around them because we hadn't seen them at the bigger meets. On paper, it looked like they had a really good team, but sometimes paper doesn't always match up to reality. But they're showing at conference really showed me that, no, they are a scary good team, and I feel like they've been possibly a little underrated or overlooked just because we haven't seen their full lineup yet. But yeah, for their top 5, the only 2 people that were able to break up their top 5 were 2 people that we have ranked very highly in our individual rankings. So I feel like that's, scary good. We've talked in previous shows about like the importance of spread, and like one of the reasons that we rank teams pretty favorably is like, what does their spread look like? Are they running as a pack? Are they all over the place? And they also have like a really solid spread, like running together. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table come regionals and nationals. I think they're they've got something up their sleeve, and the other teams should be looking out for it.
Ryan, tell me your thoughts on the Oregon women's depth right now.
I mean, to score 18 points in a conference where we have a couple other ranked teams in there, and I think John was really high on Northwestern. Penn State's also ranked, but to come in and just take it by 18 points is like, it's pretty wild. I mean, that's an impressive, pretty dominant performance from the Oregon women. And it looks like they're running well, and I think Northwestern John has been pretty high on most of the year, as I said. So to beat them handily by several, almost not quite. It was like 90, 80 so points. It was 96, 18. My math is terrible. Whatever. 70, 60, 70 points. Like, that's a pretty big win. Like, to take that, so they're definitely looking very strong, putting together a solid performance when it counts. And I think that's a big thing that we talk about is, like, you can run well early in the season, run well against, maybe some smaller fields. I think they went to Cowboy Jamboree and another. Maybe they went to Gaines Creek. I don't think they went to Gaines Creek. But, wherever they've been before, it doesn't matter now. Conference weekend is really where you start to see things come together and really, bring out the best, I feel like, and really start to see where everybody really stacks up. And I think Oregon proved that they're bringing the power this year.
Question for you guys. In nationals, do you think Oregon can challenge BYU's women? You want me to start with you, Krissy?
I mean, I definitely think they can challenge them. I have a lot of faith, and this is no knock on Oregon. I have a lot of faith in BYU that I feel like they'd have to have an off day for Oregon to creep ahead of them. But yeah, you never know. It's definitely not like a given. Like, NC State's not going to be handed the team title. BYU is not going to be handed the team title. Oregon isn't. But if I had to rank one above the other, I'd probably rank BYU above Oregon, just from how we've seen them perform all year. But yeah, I mean, anything can happen. And that's not, again, it's not a knock on either team or any team. Like, I think every team is going to be showing up there knowing they have to work for every position.
Absolutely. Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, I just got to echo what Krissy said. I think right now, like, in my mind, BYU is just looking really strong. I think Oregon is definitely good, especially now that we've seen their full roster, because they were at Gaines Creek. I thought I saw them at Gaines Creek, and I just couldn't remember. And they have just some athletes that are running well. They have a few athletes back in the fold who ran at Worlds and things like that. So, it's going to be a battle. I mean, any team I think can. Like BYU is very strong, I think. But there's other teams that I think are proven to be, maybe could kind of get after it a little bit. And I think Oregon could be one of them. And it all depends on the day. You got to have the day on the day. And I think that's the important thing.
What other teams are you alluding to right now?
I guess we'll have to see, wait in the rankings and see what we got. I can't give it away. We can't give it away. Can't give away all the good stuff in the first half of the show.
You're right.
Got to talk rankings still.
Let me lock in. Okay. Speaking of locking in, Doris finally debuts. We love it. Doris is so back. Last time we seen her was at Worlds, and she opens up her season at the SEC Championships in true Doris fashion by winning, crossing the finish line in 1932-37. Ultimately, the Bam woman would end up finishing second overall. Doris is back. It's nice to see her. What are our thoughts after that performance at SEC's this weekend? As usual, Krissy, I'm going to start with you ladies first.
Yeah, I mean, Doris was fantastic. You talk about Jane not really skipping a beat coming out of high school. I feel like we didn't really see Doris skip a beat. We haven't seen her all season. The last time we saw her was competing for, was it 5th place? Yeah, at
I believe it was 5th place.
At Worlds. And it seems like she took her downtime and just got right back in the saddle. And it's really good to see her back dominant. I'd love to see what she can do up against, someone like Jane, or I know we're going to move to ACC soon, so I don't get ahead of myself. But, the 1-2 sticks for NC State, I thought it was very promising. It was also really awesome to see how well the team finished there.
Agreed. What about you, Bryan?
Yeah, I think, kind of alluding to what you said, I think when you put in, obviously, Doris and they're going to get Brenda back at regionals, I've heard from my sources.
Okay. Grapevines
so,
talking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're going to have a more full-looking lineup. And I think, it was, I'm looking at the team scores to make sure I'm correct. Florida beat them. It was 45-117. I think Alabama, when you add in Brenda, obviously gets much closer, if not potentially could beat Florida. Right now, I think Alabama kind of struggles in their 5th, 6th, four. It's more their 4-5, 34th and 75th when Florida had a 10 and 18 in those spots. So adding at least one more in Brenda brings that gap a little better. And I think that's why you see them as high in the rankings as they are for us on the team side when we get to things. But yeah, I think obviously Doris just did Doris things. She didn't skip a beat. Just like Krissy said, it's incredible to see her, and when you see her in person too, just what she's able to do, and the confidence I think Coach Nick has kind of instilled in her to kind of go out there and get the job done. And the big thing is they're running for the team too, which is super important. Being that they have that team component and team aspect of things. So she knows what's on the docket at regionals and potentially nationals to help her team be the lowest stick possible for them. So
I think that's what makes cross country so special, because we all know track and field normally is a individual sport, and I guess to some degree obviously cross country as well, but you truly do have that team element whenever we are discussing how these runners do. And yes, to your point, those 5th, those 6th, those 7th place runners, they do matter, because ultimately it up.
Exponentially. Your 5th, 4th, 5th runners can really make or break everything. You can have the best front 2, front 3, but if you're back half of your pack, your 4, 5, even your 6 and 7, because they can sometimes be interchangeable. If they're way in the back or way low, they're just adding more points to your score, which doesn't help. So yeah, it takes a full team effort to really get up there and get on a podium and get a win at big things. And in that same vein, Alabama men got the win. So that was big on the men's side for the Alabama men to get the win. And see their team really get the trophy on that one.
They have some pretty good recruits this year too, coming into cross country season. So no surprise there.
Yeah.
Krissy, you have anything to add to that?
Not really, no. I feel like one thing I'd add is I was super impressed with Florida. And I may be a little biased just being from Florida and also having run in the SEC, coming out of college or coming out of high school. Obviously, Florida's always had a very dominant track program. But I feel like their distance side has lacked, where their sprints and their jumps have been really, really good. And don't quote me on this, I don't know for sure, but what I understand is that, when Chris Solinsky was the coach, like, he was working with a very limited budget, which kind of, stood in the way a bit. And I don't know if NIL changed the landscape. I don't know if they've, and that's changed the budget, or if it's, it just seems like since Palmer has stepped in, like, we've seen Florida, creep up and up and up the rankings. And it's very promising. I'm very impressed with what Palmer's been able to do with the team the last couple of years since he's been there.
Yeah, they've been, Florida women, for sure. Like, hats off to them getting the win. And then on the same side of things, on the men's side, I think we have to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. I think, they have also been kind of creeping up and up and up this year, and have kind of, slowly kind of been moving up in our rankings, but finishing second in the SEC, beating out Oklahoma and Missouri. I think we've had ranked pretty highly. And your Razorbacks, actually, the men didn't do too bad. Fourth place, I know obviously they're always shooting for a top podium contender, but they've been on a little bit of a, I don't want to say a downswing this year, because it's like they're still really, they're pretty good nationally, but definitely not what they hold themselves up to be, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, they're always shooting for the top of the podium at SECs, and even top of the podium at NCAAs. So for them to finish fourth at SEC season probably was a little disappointing, but I think that's pretty impressive, being that they essentially weren't ranked or non-existent coming in, and they take down Missouri and only 126 to 131, a couple points from beating Oklahoma. So, kind of pretty impressive there. But yeah, Georgia on the men's side, I think, also is worth a mention as far as teams that are, moving up.
Well, we gotta go back to 2 shows ago. We said we put them on upset alert, Georgia Bulldogs. I remember it specifically because I think they upset a team in football too that year. I think they beat Ole Miss. But one thing UJ is going to do is upset somebody, and we put them on upset alert just because of what we've been seeing and how they're kind of sneakily getting in the weeds of things and could upset the little bit of circle of life that's up there in the top 3. Yeah. But as we're talking about notable people, notable openers, let's talk about notable openers and also some notable no-shows. But we're going to start off with Pamela Kosgei of New Mexico. She opened her season in dominant style, winning Mountain West Cross Country Championships, finishing in 19:20.8. I love her so much. She is adorable. She is so small but so mighty in the way that she runs, and she runs with this ferocity where mid-race you kind of can already tell what's going to happen, what's going to go on, and someone else that I think we definitely should keep our eye on. What are our thoughts after that one, guys? Krissy?
I don't know if I have anything more to add beyond what you said. That woman is a fearless racer. And you're right, she just returned back to it, dominant style, I feel like it's a trend we're seeing, These great athletes, they respect, there's time for everything. And they respect the time to rest, and then when it's time to come back, they are ready to come back and ball out. And I feel like it's very rarely, if ever, do we see Pamela, not produce up to her potential. And I feel like, she just showed us yeah, I can do this with these this weekend. So I'm looking forward to see what she brings to, is it Columbia or Columbus? Columbia.
Columbia, yeah.
Right? Okay.
Go ahead, Bryan.
I don't know my Midwestern geography very well.
Oh yeah, no, geography was not my subject. It kicks my butt every time. But go ahead, Bryan.
I think one notable athlete on my side, I gotta mention, I mentioned we were talking about the Ducks earlier, and we talked about Oregon, and Salon, I'm not sure how you say her last name. I'm terrible, and I don't want to butcher it. But I believe she ran at World Championships, and she was back. Yeah, she ran for Turkey, I believe, at the World Championships. And she was back in their lineup, and obviously I think that really, really helps attribute to that 18 points. She, finished well. I'm trying to pull up the team scores. I had it here a second ago. I got way too many tabs open, guys, by the way.
That's my brain.
It's bad. She finished third overall. Yeah, and third for the Ducks.
Yeah.
But that really, really helps them in team scoring, especially, as the fields get deeper. And again, it's just about moving your pack towards that top of the race as much as you can. So, having them go 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 was huge at Big Tens, and obviously that can help translate once you get into regionals and some of the bigger, regionals and then nationals. So,
going right back into our conversation regarding teams and why that's so important. But also some notable no-show guys. Peyton Noe of Arkansas. We haven't seen her yet. We all know that she's a standout for the Razorbacks, but she was notably absent from the start list at SECs. Listen, Krissy, you know I got to start with you on this one. What do you think? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know the last time that we've seen Sid Thorvaldsen and Peyton Noe run cross country together. And those are two like incredible low sticks when they're on and firing for the Razorbacks. But I feel like, you know, when one shows up and one's ready to go, the other one isn't. And so it does leave me wondering, like, if we had her back, like, you know, what's that going to look like? They're not going to beat Florida, of course, because Florida, Alabama, and even USC, like, they're on fire this year. But I do feel like it would have made a big difference in the SEC rankings. And I hope that whatever's going on there, like, she gets figured out, and, you know, body, mind, whatever it may be, gets healthy, because she's definitely, I feel like since she's entered the NCAA, like, she's been a contender. You know, sure. Like in any race that she's in, like she's another. Both of them are absolutely fearless, and so I'd love to see her back and continue to show up and be someone that the NCAA should be on watch for.
For sure. What were your thoughts, Bryan, when you saw that Peyton did not run?
Yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, she finished well. You know, I believe last year at Nationals, she's finished up there. She was like really good, and she's a low stick. She's, again, just somebody that you can rely on, and I hope it really would bring the Razorbacks up in scoring and everything. You know, the women didn't quite finish as well as the men, and I think that, you know, having her back in the lineup really just helps. And I think also, like, when you have somebody like that who's a proven leader on the team, can really help just boost morale in general. You know, when you have somebody that's been there, done that, gone to these bigger meets, done a lot of things, you know. So yeah, like Krissy said, I don't know if she's going through anything. Maybe she's injured. Whatever it may be, like, it'd be really cool to see her back in lineup. Maybe she's just redshirting. You know, who knows? But that could be something that would be really cool.
I spoke with Peyton at SEC indoors last season, and one thing about her is that she's always just been a dog. So I think for Peyton and herself, I'm not too concerned. But I think for the Razorbacks as a team, it kind of sucks just to kind of have her absent, because she definitely would add to their success when Nationals rolls around. But for her, you know, she did extremely well at SECs, and one of the things she was talking about is that she finally got it figured out. She feels like she's really starting to like get into her rhythm, and she's able to just run, do her, and just compete super well. So for Peyton and herself, I think selfishly, I think she will be fine, but I think it just really, really, really sucks for the Razorbacks right now, because that is like a big L for this cross country season.
Yeah, I think somebody that's not, I guess it's not an opener or notable no-show, but I just want to draw attention to, you know, John mentioned this in our Slack channel the other day. Juliet Whitaker, she ran at ACCs, and this is like, she ran at Nuttycombe also, but she was, I'm trying to figure out where my ACC results.
Sixth best.
Yeah, she was like Stanford's sixth woman, and I don't know. I just think Juliet's range, like, she's always kind of run, you know, a range of things since high school. I remember, but like, to have her run cross country when she, you know, was at the Olympics, she's like just an 800-meter runner. Generally, people think of her, but like, she has that range, which is just phenomenal and so incredible to see when you kind of can be on the cross country course and also run the 800. Sure. Obviously, I think that's what I love about cross country is it brings everybody from the 800 to the 10K all together in one place to see, like, you know, who is the best distance runner. There's one race, one champion, one crown. Trying to find where Juliet finished. She was 80th, and in the team score, she was there. Let's see. Oh, this one's done. Let me do that. But yeah, she was on Stanford's roster, and it was just, it's cool to see that when you have athletes who can do that. I think the same thing like we used to see with LSU. Why am I drawing a blank on her name? Somebody help me here.
Michaela Rose.
Michaela Rose, thank you.
Okay.
Michaela Rose running cross country, and she was always up there for LSU, and it was like cool to see. I think I remember watching her last year. I think it was SECs at College Station. Dominate, and it's like, she's a crazy 800 runner. What's she doing dominating the cross country course? So I love to see that when we have all the different disciplines and distances from the track come together to run cross country.
And I think it also goes to show when you see these half milers ventured into cross country, it's no surprise that they also kind of separate themselves kind of from the rest of the nation when you see them at conference, when you see them at nationals. And even going back to Juliet Whitaker, she's somebody where I just love seeing her run, and I love seeing her smile again more than anything. This year, I think she's been just such a representative of like why it's so important to take care of your mental health, take care of your body. You can be a successful athlete, but you're also very much a human being, and you take care
100%.
of that in all facets. So to see her, you know, have the success on the track, now have it on the cross country course in the midst of all of this, and being like, you know, very open about this, and probably helping somebody watching her, reading her post. It's so commendable, and it's so hard not to root for her.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
If I may quickly add, you know, since we're on the topic of brave 800 runners who kind of challenge themselves out of their comfort zone, Sanu Jallow of Arkansas did the same thing, you know, also an Olympian for Gambia, I believe.
Sounds right.
But she's split like 51 on a 4x4, is a sub-2 runner, and has been scoring consistently for Arkansas's cross-country team, you know. I don't think her times match Juliet's, but still, like you said, like it's so impressive to see the 800 runners challenge themselves there. And then, you know, I feel like that shows come SECs, regionals, nationals on the track when it's time to be a workhorse. And I feel like the person who I think, you know, did it the best, that I feel like sometimes goes overlooked because I feel like we don't always see her as a pure 800 runner because she can be so good at everything, is Sage Hurta. Or Sage Hurta Klecker.
Yeah.
Like she was, you know, I don't know how many people know this, like was a 4-time true All-American, like since her freshman year, you know, like finished top 40 in cross country all 4 years of her eligibility. And, you know, has also gone on to be one of our fastest 800 runners in American history. So, yeah, I think it's the women who are willing to challenge themselves and step out of their comfort zone and build probably their, you know, their weaknesses. Feels like they're not weak in anything, you know. But try and build their weaknesses up. Like, I feel like it does make such a difference, you know, whether it's short term or long term. But yeah, that's definitely like really impressive to see from Juliet. And I like seeing the trend of different 800 runners, you know, kind of try that out and take their event to the next level.
For sure.
It's fun to watch. We talked about things that are fun to watch. You know, we're starting to see everyone's team kind of come into fruition. So we're having a lot different conversations than we had earlier this season, guys. We're seeing full-blown teams. So with that being said, I would love to know from your guys' point of view, are we seeing likely national lineups? It's like one of the biggest things that stood out to me was New Mexico's men. They ran a very strong team. Hoptum Samuel, who ultimately won, Vincent Churcher, Evans Kiplagat, Matthew Kosgei, amongst others. What are our thoughts? I'll start with you, Krissy.
Yeah, I think this is the time of year that the teams are mostly solidified. I feel like, you know, conference you can run, what, like 10 people usually? If we haven't seen entire team lineups yet, we've seen their most probable. You know, I feel like conference is kind of, we talked earlier in the show about, you know, the interchangeability, and just even, you know, 4th or 7 possibly being so interchangeable. And for teams who have that, or teams who have more than 7, you know, and they're trying to decide, okay, who do we put in that 5, 6, 7 lineup? I feel like conference is where you run your athletes trying to decide, okay, who's going to be our 7 or 8 going forward to regionals and NCAAs.
100%. Bryan?
Yeah, I think people are locking in. Like, I think I alluded to it earlier. I think it's just like this is the time of the season where it's like the early season stuff is great. It's awesome, you can run fast, but now is like when you need to lock in, you put your athletes out there. You know, and I think, you know, just the same example is like Alabama. I think, you know, they held her Brenna back for conference, but I know that she really wanted to get out there and run with them, and I'm sure she's gonna just, you know, she's gonna get ready to. She's gonna be even more ready to go out there and rip it at regionals because, like I said, she's running for the team. Like, just so much more. This is where things are really at stake. Like, conference weekend is just incredible because, like, you really start to see things come. You know, people are honed in for these meets. Like the next, well, that meet and the next, so those 3 meets: conference, regionals, nationals. And I think like, yeah, it's just going to be really awesome to see the next couple meets, and obviously regionals and nationals, because conference weekend was awesome. So
yeah,
and the lineups I think are, yeah, they're finding their way there. If they're not there, they should be.
Yeah, I love this time of year. We're nearing the end of the season. Playtime is over. It's time for the big dogs. So let's look at some rankings, starting with our men's Division I team rank. Okay. I mean, I feel like this makes sense. Oklahoma State is up 2. Iowa State's down 2. New Mexico stayed where they were, Virginia stayed where they were, Colorado stayed where they were, Bama stayed where they were. Let's go. Syracuse went from 8 to 7. Let's go. BYU's down 1, Northern Arizona's up 1, Oregon is up 2. I think the one for me that stands out the most is Oklahoma State going up 2. It makes the most sense. They ran a completely dominant Big 12s, and yeah, like we were saying, it was 5 of them who made up the top 10. What are our initial thoughts when we see this, guys? Go ahead, Krissy.
I feel like it's hard, every team's been running so well that you could put anyone in that, that top 6 in that top 1-2 spot, given any given week. So I feel like it makes NCAAs a lot more fun, is realizing like, oh, there's not a solid lock, like Iowa State, I feel like most of the season seemed like the solid lock, like they've just been running so dominant. And so to see Oklahoma State come out during SECs and they're like, no, we're still the team to beat. And just, they scored like half the points Iowa State did. Like it's really exciting to see the variability and the switch up, so I feel like you never know what's going to come NCAAs.
It's going to be exciting. I'm really excited. I'm also really excited to see how these rankings end up translating to the results and how correct we are. Go ahead, Bryan.
Yeah, I think in my mind, obviously we're talking about just Oklahoma State having that dominant performance. My mind begs to question a little bit, like Iowa State, even if they ran the same top 7 they've run most of the year, they have that strong group of front runners. It's like, how much does the whole issues that are going on within the program impact things outside of the people that it directly impacts? Because I think that can impact your program. Like, whether it's like you directly or not, or whether it's their top 7 or not, it still has an impact. People are talking about you. Things are, just all this buzz. Like, it just adds a little bit of pressure. Like, so it's interesting to see like how things are going to be handled, and if this is just like a blimp. I mean, obviously we knew Oklahoma State was good, so I don't want to like discredit Iowa State and say like, oh, like why they ran so terribly, because like I think Iowa State Oklahoma State we knew was really good. I think it's really awesome to see because we finally, like I was saying a couple shows ago, we finally got to see them against a wider selection. It's just the Big 12, but the Big 12 is very strong. I mean, obviously there's Colorado who finished 3rd, BYU who finished 4th. Like those 2 teams alone, like I think the top 4 in this, we're going to see maybe in the top 10 at nationals potentially. Like they're all really strong teams. And if we can bring back up the rankings again, I think that's where we have them. If I'm correct, let's see. I think BYU, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Colorado. So like there you go. That's what we have right now is 4 of them in the top 10. So overall, like the Big 12 is looking very dominant here. But yeah, I think big props to Oklahoma State. If you can win the Big 12 right now, for them being such a dominant conference, like you can do really well. But it is tight, and it's going to be a close race. Like I think, maybe it's like not as wide open as we thought. Like Krissy alluded to, like maybe these things are tighter, and it just depends on again who can have the race on the day. I've said it 1,000 times.
Yep.
Like if we just clip that out every time, I'd probably have like a minute-long clip of me saying that. But it's like it is just so important. And I just remember all the coaches last year saying that too to us. It's like, are we ready for the day? And that's what my coach used to say too. It's like, are we ready for this on the day? Have we prepared right? Did I get the training, everything right to dial in for the specific day? So that's what it's going to come down to. But I think, yeah, in terms of those big movers, and I think the other big call out there, I think, can we bring it up again one more time, Greg? Sorry, I keep bothering you. The Syracuse moving up, I think, is also a big call out there. They just ran so phenomenal at ACCs. Like, really, really, really impressive performance there. I want to say it was like 61 to 65 or something like that. ACC results, you got them pulled up. I don't have the tab at the moment for the men team scores. Yeah, like that's incredible because Virginia is really strong, and they beat Wake Forest, who I think, and Notre Dame, who are also both strong. Yeah, and I think Wake Forest, that's a team that we thought was going to be better, but like, Syracuse has proven they can beat them. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really awesome to see. So I think the moves are fair this week. I know John's not really here to defend it on the men's side or on any of them because he's on vacation, but he did take the time to make the rankings, by the way. So that's
shout out to
really
John
appreciate for John for
doing that on vacation.
So, but anyways, we can keep moving. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, everything that you're saying is 100% right. It's 100% relevant, and all of it like plays a major role and factor in these team scores because, like we said earlier, cross country is special because it truly does bring this like individual sport of running into a very team-like aspect, and you're seeing where a lot of things contribute to the points, the scoring, the overall success. So let's see what's going on with the women's side. All things said, all things considered, let's pull up the women's team rankings for this week. Ooh, all right. NC State moves to number 1. Oregon moves to number 2. BYU drops 2 spots and is down 3. Florida also dropped a spot. There are 4. Notre Dame stayed where they were. Stayed where they are at. Northern Arizona also stayed. Iowa State went up 1. West Virginia went up 1. Bama down 2. And Oklahoma State creeps into the top 10. Big call out. BYU is not number 1 anymore. What are our initial thoughts? Go ahead, Krissy.
I really want to hear John's take on why.
I know, I miss him so much.
Because it's interesting, and yeah, like Bryan just said, like you could clip so many times, like how many times you could say like it doesn't matter till championship season, and like all this stuff. So yeah, guys, you never know. And here's the thing: is there's a chance that top 3 isn't going to be well. I don't know. I feel like it'd be really hard to see BYU and NC State like not in that lineup, but I don't know. I feel like rankings never matter, and I feel like whenever I saw rankings in college, if I was not ranked very high, I knew that I was gonna have a good like NCAA meet. So I was like, I feel like rankings always get turned on their head.
Yeah.
Come championship season, but no, I'm definitely super excited to see that. It might be a hot take, but I really like seeing Florida where they're at. I feel like we'd been super high on Alabama all year, and like they've been ranked pretty highly. And for Florida to come out and just like absolutely no disrespect to anybody else, but to low-key steamroll SECs, like I think that they definitely deserve that.
Makes a ton of sense.
I had to like take a look at the other rankings. I feel like it dropped off screen and I forgot where everyone else was. But no, I think it's keeping Alabama high up there, especially like you guys mentioned, like if they put remind me her name again.
Which one?
Were they missing SECs?
Who are we missing? Peyton?
Oh, Brenna, are you talking about from Alabama?
Yes, yeah. Like that does make a difference. I don't know if it makes a difference to beat Florida. Like if you look at how big that point differential was, like even if you put Brenda in first, like it still does not swing them up to beat Florida. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that they're still definitely a team to keep their eye on. New Mexico ran great, very quickly. They're not in the top 10 rankings, but I was very impressed with what Boise State did at conference as well. It seemed like they didn't, like they put up a fighting chance against New Mexico, who's always been a very dominant team. So maybe not top 10, but I definitely put them in like the top 15 or top 20 rankings.
Okay, fair. Go ahead, Bryan.
New Mexico is at 11 actually, so they're just off the top 10. I'm looking
Okay.
at John's full
I'm at Boise.
spreadsheet. Oh, Boise.
Yeah. I know there's a little aside, but I was very impressed with their showing at conference.
Yeah, sorry, you threw me off. I thought you said New Mexico. But anyways, yeah, I think.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I think one thing I think we didn't draw attention to is like Northern Arizona. Mm-hmm. I think they had dominant conference wins. I think that's kind of a given at this point. I think it's their 5th in a row to sweep both the men's and the women's team titles at their conference, at the Big Sky Conference. Women won with 17 points. Obviously, that's just hard to judge because when you come into a conference and you're so dominant. But yeah, Notre Dame with a second place at ACCs. I think just the top, I really wish I could pick John's brain. I know he talked about it. He'd mentioned it earlier last show about moving NC State above BYU, but to drop BYU to 3, I want to know just what the thought is behind that. Because I think, again, Oregon is good, and they put on a dominant showing at Big Tens. But I don't know, man. I just think like I know, again, I've been harping on the fact that the whole team score matters and everything, but having such a low stick in Jane, like she's going to finish, like in my mind, I can't see her finishing outside the top 5 unless she has just something go wrong, which again, I hope doesn't happen. I don't see it happening, but like, you know what I mean? Like that's 5 points. And then it's like, that's like factoring, okay, then does NC State, I guess they probably have that. They have at least 1-2 really strong. So it's an interesting move for sure at the top of the list. I wish I had more insight into that, but I think I could stand behind this, though. I think I could get behind it. Just like based on how strong the ACC has been, this year on the women's side, with Notre Dame and them in there. I do think Alabama should not have dropped a couple spots like they did. I'm still high on them. Again, it's my coach from college is the coach there. I think, when you end in Brenda, they do get a little stronger. And then Iowa State and West Virginia are both good, but I think Alabama probably should still be above them personally. Okay. So, just thoughts.
I feel like John made the rankings and he said, "Let me just throw this into the fire." And he's enjoying this right now. Yeah. He's enjoying this. He's gonna watch this and be like, "Yes, my master plan is working." So let's get some more context into this and let's pull up the D1 individual men's rankings and see what movement we had there. Okay. Not much. So Hoptum Samuel, Brian Masal, and Solomon Kipchoge still makes up the top 3. I think a call out to definitely talk about is Rocky Hansen of Wake Forest being number 6. Guys, we were kind of gung ho on him before even off camera, before we started recording. He had such a great showing out at ACCs and really showed a big dog in him. And I will obviously talk about him a little bit more later. But what are our initial thoughts when seeing these individual rankings, guys, on the men's side? Go ahead, Krissy.
I feel really good about them. Honestly, yeah. I like your note about Rocky. He had a monster performance to win ACCs, And it wasn't even he just edged someone out. Got the win by a couple seconds. It was a good 20-second win.
Convincing, for sure.
And Gary Martin and the people behind him, no less. It's not like he won a conference that is really solid, but there's no superstars. He got ahead of a lot of heavy hitters. So I like where he's at, and I'd love to see what he can do on the 10K.
100%, right?
Yeah, I think. It was wild because, like you said, like Gary Martin's no slouch. He's a really good racer. He won ACCs last year, defending champion, and I want to say it was 2 or 3K or so where Rocky just dropped the hammer. He just went for it and just didn't look back. And it's to be able to do that and have that confidence and just go out there, it was impressive. He just was, there's almost like a Jane type performance where he just he went for it. Maybe not quite, kind of on that level because I think he's also set a course record and that's a pretty historic course too, Tom Sawyer. I think the big move here, Calvin Chariot from Florida winning SECs. He was ranked 26th. He moves way up to 9th. That's a pretty big win for him from SECs, but also he won pre-nationals and he was 6th at Gaines Creek. So I think just looking at that, I think we're maybe a little bit hesitant to move him up, finishing 6th at Gaines Creek and then pre-nationals was a little bit less of a deep field. But then to see him at SECs get the win, it's he's proven he's the real deal. I think he's coming together. I think, Will Palmer's putting together, an amazing athlete with him. And then obviously on the women's team side, really, really strong performance. So, yeah, I think, the other couple just small movements, Valentin Sosa from CBU, Robin Kemoy-Berra from Iowa State took a jump from 12th to 7th. So some call-outs there. But Hoptum Samuel, Brian Musal still remain our 1-2. They've been our favorites all year. I think that's kind of undeniable at this point. Brian obviously having that huge performance I alluded to earlier, winning his 3rd Big 12 title. So really, really, solid stuff.
A part of me thought that he would have moved to number 1. I will be very honest. A part of me thought that.
I think it's hard because in my mind, Hoptum is just he was down, won the Mountain West. Obviously not as quite as strong as the Big 12, but he won at Nutty Comb, which I think was the big one, and I think he's the defending returner and second place runner. So it's hard to knock those things when Brian. Not that Brian didn't have any other. Again, we didn't see Brian against any other competition until now. So it's I still think it's a fair placement to have Hoptum ahead of Brian.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it. But a part of me almost would have liked to see, a small part of me would have liked to see Brian number 1.
Yeah, it'd be a mix-up almost on the women's side. It's well, I can justify it, but it's hard. It's
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it'd be one of those. Yeah.
I have very conflicting views right now in my head because I'm not mad at it, but I also would have liked to see a little shift. Yeah. You know what I mean? But let's look at the individual rankings on the women's side and see what movement we had there. Okay. We have Doris of Alabama at number 1, Still Jane at 2, Grace Hartman 3, Pamela Koskai 4, Angelina Napoleon. There goes your girl, Krissy. number 5.
That's what I'm talking about.
So our top 5 is pretty solid. Had a little bit of movement, 6 through 10. What are our thoughts, guys? Oh, actually, let me start with you, Krissy. Yeah, you've been talking about.
I will say,
Go ahead.
I really appreciate John and his rankings. And Angelina had, one heck of a run at ACCs, so impressive. She's someone who we've seen, if you look at her track record, like just keeps getting better all season. And seeing where she started at, what's it called? At Nuttycombe. Like, it gave me a lot of hope because, like, okay, that's a starting point. Like, that's going to be scary where the finishing point is, And, you saw her, move ahead, take the win at ACCs. And I really appreciate that John's like, yeah, hey, that was really good. We'll move you up. But, like, we're not putting you ahead of Grace because, like, Grace is just so solid, and one race doesn't define you. But, I'm feeling really good about these rankings. Again, I feel like we mentioned earlier, with, like, the men's team rankings. There's definitely, come nationals, there's going to be a lot of shaking up, and it's like the top 10 rankings that we have right now is not like necessarily who we think. It's hard when like there's like 30 people that could place in the top 10, you know what I mean? But it's like there's not 30 spots for the top 10, there's only 10. But yeah, I think all those women listed right now, like they definitely proven themselves all season, and in the past, obviously. And they deserve, they all deserve to be top 10. So we'll see who it's going to be in November.
Right. Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's kind of fair. And I do like what you said about Grace, because I'd be like, man, Angelina, she ran really well. Like, she beat her teammate Grace. Like, she should be ranked ahead. But I think, like, you're right. Like, looking at the full body this season, I think that really also speaks to the depth, and I think why we see, NC State jumping to the top of the rankings, too, is, like, when you have those 1-2 interchangeable and your spread is, like, better and moving to closer together because you have that top stick, but everybody else getting better to get to the top stick. That's why I think you see them so close together, but also like kind of interchangeable. Like in my mind, you could flip their names around and it'd be cool, or it'd be fine. I think obviously Pamela Kosgai stays at 4 since we've only seen her race like once. Obviously being at, as we mentioned to earlier, at the conference meet. I think the biggest switch ups obviously came like 6 through 10. Based on the sheet that I'm looking at, it's just it's crazy amount. Yeah, like there we go. We've seen it again. The amount of switch ups. He moved a lot of people up from the teens into the single digits based on how they ran at conference. Rosemary Longisa from 10 to 6. Let's see, Joy went up from West Virginia from 19th to 10th, which is a pretty big jump. But obviously after seeing Jane run really well on that course, Joy was just not just behind her, but she was second behind her. So Mary Boner Dalton from Notre Dame from 18th to 8th for second ACC. She was 4th at Nuttycombe. So I think he's starting to give people credit where credit's due when they string together a couple good races. And I think we saw it in the men's rankings too, like I said, with the from Florida, Calvin Chariot. So just these lower top 10 athletes getting really their dues and respect after running a couple solid races and now proving themselves at conference. Again, where we talked about it matters. Things really start to matter for team scoring and to show that you have what it takes when we get towards the championship part of the season.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot. I think, John can be a tough critic sometimes. So when he definitely gives that respect, it's like you can tell or from jump that these were not fluke runs. These were very solid runs. They were very honest performances. And he made sure that it would reflect as such in these rankings. So, I mean, again, we are nearing the end, guys, and it's going to be a fun one this season. This season has been, a lot of drama, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of movement, and it's going to be exciting. So let's move on. We're nearing the end. Our Mud and Miles spotlight. We spoke about him a little bit. Rocky Hansen, the Wake Forest Junior, is our Mud and Miles spotlight of the week. For those of you guys who don't know that, our Mud and Miles spotlight is the person who shows the most grit, who has a great performance, who has a breakthrough performance, one of the three or all three combined. But this Demon Deacon won the ACC championships convincingly, finishing 22-18.6 over a lot of people's favorite, Gary Martin of Virginia. So I'd love to get your takes on Rocky Hansen of Wake Forest. I'll start with you, Krissy.
I don't know if there's anything more that I can say than I said earlier. Like that was, yeah, you're talking about breakthrough performance. that was a breakthrough performance, and I'd imagine it was a lot of work going in, from the end of track season, end of spring, early summer this year through the fall, to now he's ready to rip. And like you said, like Gary Martin's no slouch. The people he beat were no slouch. For him to come out and just make that baller, like you said, Jane Hendegren move. I definitely think it was well deserved, and hats off to Rocky on a fantastic performance.
Agreed. Right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I said it earlier. Also, just making the move, being able to beat a guy like Gary Martin, who we know is a really strong runner. I wish I could remember exactly what he said in the interview afterwards, but he essentially said, we're putting it together. We're doing the right things.
Right.
Coach and I had a conversation. My confidence is up. This is going to help, just moving forward and everything. And he hopefully it helps the confidence of his team too, to see their guy number one and keep them up there in the conversation. Because I feel like we've had high hopes for the Demon Deacons in Wake Forest this year, and I think they're running really well. But I think having that and getting Rocky a win, seeing that should really help boost their overall motivation and just be ready to roll come regionals. So yeah, really cool to see that from Rocky, and like I said, a big, pretty historic course. So impressive performance from him.
Super impressive. And again, so both of your points, we have a lot to look forward to when regionals comes along. But until then, this is the best part of the show, Stashies at Nashies, and let's award the Stash of the Week, giving it to Chip Smith of Capital University. Now let me show you, that's a stash, and he got the glasses to match. Come on now. Come on now. Bryan, you got to step it up. I know you've been trying, but come on. Look at that. Look at that.
I think mine's there, man. I mean, that's a
There?
great stash. Yeah, I mean, his is a little more fluffy. I think my hair just isn't quite as fluffy. It's there. I'll shave the beard down. We'll get it. Yeah, I think they look the same. Look at that. Yeah, come on, zoom in.
The same?
We should have given it to Bryan.
This is a stash. Yeah.
All
There we
right,
go.
you guys comment and let me know if you guys think that looks the same. Maybe I'm a hater, but I do think it's a little off. But Krissy, what do we think about the stash? I think Chip got it going on.
I want to, give a hot take or be critical and be like, I'd give him a 9.8 and dock 2 points for this. It's a 10 out of 10,
Yeah.
It's solid. I think he did a great job.
No, that's a good stash.
Yeah, and the glasses, then now I got to give it an extra 2 points, 10.2, just for the glasses.
Yeah, he has the whole little aura going on with it, to be very honest with you. The stash, the hair, the glasses. Yeah, he was ready for that photo too. It wasn't an off guard. He was like, take a picture of me.
Yeah, I think one thing we got to mention too is don't forget to send us your stash picks. We are going to have a stash of the year. Right?
Yes.
We haven't quite decided on what it's going to be called, but a stash of the year. We're going to announce it in Columbia, Missouri when we're there.
In person, live.
In person, live. So be sure to let us know and send us your stashes, because we just want to see them. I mean, especially as we get to regionals. If you haven't dialed up your stash by the time regionals hits, good luck growing it for nationals, because you got to be growing this. You got to get ready, get it groomed, get it looking good. This takes time. Perfection takes time, guys.
The more stashes that we get, the more I can roast Bryan and Josh on their lack thereof. So, I mean, help me help you. Stop us, tag us, show us your best stash using hashtag Stashies at Nashies, so me and Krissy can have a field day with this. But until next time, guys, that is this week's for the FloTrack's College Cross Country Ranking Show. We will see you in 2 weeks, and we cannot wait to talk to you guys about what's been going on. Have a good one. Bye, guys.